Just yell.
Hello. Okay, we're live on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, let's see, it's this camera. Yeah. I'm Alice Latta, and you have tuned into the Chips and Salsa Show video. And we're going to start here in just a moment. We have a fantastic guest. I'm Alice Latta. Don Jorge's still working on a mic. Our guest tonight is a repeat because he's so good. We like to have him back as often as we can. Darren Birch. Oops. Hello.
Wake up call.
Toss that under the table.
Under the table. Okay. I'm tossing something under the table to George. Darren Birch is the author of this wonderful book, Twisted But True. He used to be a police officer, a cop for the city of Phoenix, and he wrote a book about his experiences while he was doing that. He's retired now, and it's really cool because he's trying to bridge the gap. As you know, it's kind of rough out there, the community and police officers. So this is, a very serious book, but has some funny stories in there
funny
too.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark, funny, macabre, has it all.
But that's life.
Yes,
Which makes
as a
for a
cop.
good book. Yeah. And there's always plenty of cop news.
There
in
is.
There, so
There is.
we'll
Good
have
and
plenty to talk about. Right?
Absolutely.
All right, so just hang tight because we're getting ready to go live on Facebook. And we have Super Sarah. Are we good on YouTube? Okay, cool. And George, did we ever change that search word for YouTube yet? Did Secret Sonia change the YouTube search word?
We're working on it.
Working on it? Okay, cool.
Walk has 1 million.
That's good. Do you have a YouTube channel also?
I do not.
You don't?
I do not.
He's probably going to get one now that we said that. He's doing so many things. Okay, well, I'm going to... You about ready to come over here, George?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I've got some announcements and stuff to do too. So if you can get our housekeeping out of the way. All right. Whenever we're on, Sarah, let us know.
Is this yours?
Yes, this is mine. Woohoo!
Okay.
All right, ready?
Ready?
All right, sir. Squeeze you. Squeeze you in. Okay. All right. It is time for the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Latta with my partner.
Don Jorge El Alacran.
We're here every Thursday night at 6 p.m. for the Chips and Salsa Show. We are busting the myth that just because you're brown, you know what? We're not Democrats. We are Republicans, conservatives. We have a great guest I'm going to introduce in just a little bit, Darren Birch, author of Twisted But True. And you are not going to want to miss this show because he is a retired veteran police officer from the city of Phoenix. And he's got some great stories to tell you about. He's got some opinions, too, about things that are going on now. I want to give a shout out to Super Sarah, our intern. Woo, Sarah! Yeah. You know what, Sarah? You should turn the camera on you because she's dressed up for Halloween. She's so cute. Yeah, turn it. She's got her. Nice.
Look good.
She's a tiger. And she made that shirt herself. Did you know that?
Really?
She's so wonderful. Yes. And we are going to do a little bit of housekeeping, some announcements, and then we'll get right to our show. We're so excited to be here. A big announcement is next week we are not going to have our regular show because it's Halloween.
Yes, it is.
So we're taking the night off. We know that you are going to be handing out candy and doing all that stuff. But that's okay because we'll be back the very next week with another exciting episode of the Chips and Salsa Show. George, I got some announcements real quick I'm going to run through, if that's okay. Cool?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
All right. I want to give a shout out to John Strasser. John is the guy who's filling in for Frosty right now. If you're in Arizona and you're a Republican, we've got this thing called the Republican Briefs. And if you're subscribed to that, you know everything that's going on Republican and on the calendar. Guest speakers, meetings, all kinds of stuff. Well, Frosty, shout out to Frosty too, because she was ill for a little bit and she's healing mode. She's doing good. So we still keep sending you healing wishes, Frosty. And I talked to John real quick today, and he's kind of, pinch hitting for her, and he's doing a great job. So I just wanted to give a shout out to John Strasser. Thank you very, very much. We got a few birthdays. Today would have been my mom's birthday. 99. She would have been 99 years old.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mama. And it should be 100. Next week is, I've got two. I've got my great niece Lauren on the 28th. Happy birthday, Lauren. Sarah knows who that is. That's her cousin. And then also my nephew, I'm turning him transgender. My nephew Brad, his birthday's the 29th. So happy birthday, Brad Beasley. And George, do you have any birthdays? Anything? Birthdays?
No.
None? None? Okay. All right, cool. All righty. And I've got a few announcements. Tomorrow starts Arizona Federation of Women. We're going to have our convention. We have a great speaker. Brandon Stratka is going to be here from the Walk Away Movement. I think you could still get tickets if you want to go. Are you going to go? You guys?
No, I can't.
I'll be there, but that's going to be in Mesa. And then they're also having another luncheon the next day. The installation is going to be with Brad Blakeman from Fox News, so it's going to be a kind of a big deal. Pretty cool. There is, appropriately so, there's a rally for law enforcement also that's happening on Saturday, October 26th, and it's for the first ever Thin Blue Line March in Phoenix. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to kick off with a walk from the Phoenix Police Headquarters, which is at 620 West Washington downtown, and it will end at the Arizona Peace Officers Memorial at Westland Bolin Plaza. And that's right there where the Capitol is. So besides a walk, the event will feature a motorcycle procession to honor law enforcement. Speakers and Thin Blue Line flags will also be presented to families of fallen officers. So you can find more information on rallyforle.com. That's rally, R-A-L-L-Y, for F-O-R-L-E.com. You could also just email our friend Noel Rosen. And I love his email, catprotector@rallyforle.com. Have you met Noel?
No.
Oh, you
But he
really need
loves
to meet
his
him.
cats.
He loves his kitty cats. You should go to this thing if you can. Looks like it's going to be.
It sounds like a
you
nice
should be.
deal. It really does.
I know they do a nice job. I can't be there. I got busy. You got to work. But one of these years we're going to make it. I promise you. Arizona Clean Elections. Also, this is for our good friend Tristan Manos, and this is Saturday. Also, it's going to be busy weekend.
Sounds like a busy weekend.
Arizona Clean Elections Commission sponsoring We the Voters Conference, and that's at the Phoenix Convention Center.
I should probably get that.
Ooh, that sounds like Halloween music. And that's going to be Arizona's impact on 2020. Arizona is a battleground state that will play a major role in the outcome of the 2020 elections. Every vote makes a difference. So for info, you can go to cleanelections.gov/we the voters. That's kind of neat effects for Halloween. Thanks, Darren.
A little twisted over there.
I thought, where's that music coming from? I thought maybe Sarah was doing it. And then, one more announcement.
Twisted music.
Thanks for the music.
You're
It was
welcome.
twisted music. That's right. That's true. We're getting you in the Halloween spirit. Yeah. Republican National Hispanic Assembly. And that's happening. There's a special meeting, and that's going to be with Representative Mark Fincham, Catherine Barrett from the Code of Ethics, Fernando Gonzalez from Tucson, USD, and let's see, that's going to happen. Oh, we're also having Forrest Moriarty, Purple for Parents, and that's Tuesday coming up October 29th. 5:30 p.m. is a meet and greet right here at the AZGOP headquarters.
Oh,
which
it
is
is fantastic. We have a social hour or a social half hour. Well, usually it's about an hour if you get here early
we
enough.
make it last as long as we
And
can.
and the social hour is so cool. Everybody gets to meet everybody, and then they have food, and sometimes they'll have a mariachi playing some music, or it gets.
We have a good time.
It's
You should come. You don't have
Sounds
to be
good.
Latino to come.
Okay.
You don't have
and
to
it
be.
gets filled up. A lot of people come. You don't have to be Latino.
Right.
We have a lot of non-Latinos here, but they enjoy it, and they're very welcome to attend. It's a good meeting.
And
And
that's
this time that it's an educational one, because
Yeah.
it's going to be these people talking about the purple
Purple for Parents.
purple for parents, and they're going to be talking about that bond issue that they're trying to pass.
Have you seen all the bond issues that they have? There's like mega bond issues.
And they do it on purpose to confuse the people. We already voted these bonds in, and now they want to take the money out and allocate it for pet projects, and they got the people convinced that it's going to help. I don't trust the administrators. The administrators are just out for money. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the teachers barely make enough to survive. And it's sad, and it always happens. They want to do these bond issues to take the money what it was allocated for, and it's like a switch. Those switch.
Bait switch.
Those
Bait
how they do the
switch.
cards.
Right, right.
You know, and
Move
I
it
think
around.
that's what it is. And they convince the teachers and the kids to back this, and they don't know what they're doing. And then they come out yelling that they don't have the funds for the teachers, and they've moved the funds somewhere else because it is bond issues.
And you know what's sad is people don't show up to vote. You know, and I think some of these too, they actually all of them are mail-in ballots, so they'll send them in, and you know, a lot of people don't care about it. They don't even know about it. So
And
mostly
the
they
sign-
pass.
And
they
the signs
pass.
are defective. It says help your community, help your school, vote yes on on the bond issue, overriding the bond issue. It's a bond issue that's already been voted by the public. They want to override it, and it's all yes on override, and it's everywhere. Especially I live in Tulsa, so it's all over.
Did you vote already?
No, I'm gonna vote.
Did you get your mail-in ballot? Okay.
But
I believe it or not, I don't think that we have an election in South Phoenix.
and
That's
they're gonna
pretty
get
amazing.
it. They're gonna get the yes because
Yeah,
it's
it'll
so
pass.
the signs are everywhere. Yes, yes, yes. You don't see too many of the no's, but it's sad.
It really is sad. Oh my goodness. Okay, so any other announcements we need to worry about?
Nope.
We're good.
I just wanted to say that Mitt Romney is now Pierre Delecto. That's his handle, Pierre Delecto. Just like Carlos Danger was a
Carlos
wiener.
Danger,
That was that wiener
the Wiener dude,
wiener dude,
Anthony Wiener.
Anthony Wiener.
I mean, and that was his real name,
I'm
Wiener.
so glad I don't get to hear his name
I know.
anymore.
I know.
Right,
I
right.
got tired of it too.
But
Gosh.
now
Yeah.
you have Pierre Delecto. That's kind of a weird name for a Mitt
Where did you
Romney.
get that name? I mean, come on.
Is he calling himself that?
Huh?
It was
Is
a
it-
fake profile he came up with, right?
Oh, okay.
Was it Twitter or Facebook? I don't remember.
It was his social media handle. He called himself, and he even thanked Pierre Delecto for saying things, and it was him saying it. It was like, this guy's really weird.
Kind of embarrassing. Sorry about that. So, just to remind you, if this is the first time you've tuned into the Chips and Salsa Show, I'm Alice Lara,
Don Jorge.
and we are Republicans, and we are here to bust the myth that just because you're brown, you're not automatically a Democrat. And we appreciate chipsters. We appreciate you guys watching our show. We appreciate you spreading the word, liking our show. And we're going to stay tuned because I think we're going to start another edition on Tuesday evenings. We'll keep you posted and go back to our homeland, our home station, Central City Radio, which is developing Talk Central Phoenix with our good friend Julie and Allison. So please stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. It should be pretty cool.
So you have two for the price of one.
Scary. And our good friend Terry Mendoza is going to help us out too. So that's even cooler. All right, we're going to start our show because it's going to be a good one. We got plenty to talk about. We are so excited and thrilled that our good friend Darren Birch is back with us again.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me again.
He is former, I wrote this down so I get it right, former retired sergeant from Phoenix Police Department. He's also a radio host. He has Badge Boys. Do you have a theme song? Did you steal it? You can't steal it, huh?
Exactly right.
But I could sing it.
Thank you.
Because I
I
always
can't,
think
but
about
she can.
bad boys, so I say, Badge Boys, what you gonna do? And he is an author.
Well, he's the one that did that, or
No.
No, she
Okay.
wants me to steal it.
Yeah, but it was Bad Boys, remember? That show about cops. But their show is Badge Boys, like a badge.
Oh,
Badge Boys, which is very
A little
cute.
play on
Yes,
that.
I
it's a
like
play
that.
on words.
And I know, like Super
Absolutely
Sarah,
is.
she loves puns and she loves that. Yeah.
It's good fun, huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. He is the author of Twisted But True. Don't you love this big banner? It's so cool. Yeah.
It's the one with the dead sheep on it.
Yes. Ooh. And he is going to talk to us about his book as well as other police officer stories in the community and all. Who knows what we're going to talk about?
We can go so many places.
Woo, yeah. So thank you so much for joining
Oh,
us.
truly my pleasure. Thank
We
you for
appreciate
inviting.
it
Truly
very
mean
much.
that.
And then you also have another show.
I do on KTAR called 50 Info, and that's a local show here in the Valley in Arizona, 92.3 FM. And then the Badge Boys, which I'm really excited about, is a podcast that you can see anywhere, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Again, like you said, building bridges between cops, community, police, and public, what have you. It's all about showing the positive and the real, opposed to disingenuous and misleading.
Yeah, and it's a tough time. We were just
Yes.
we went over to and had a little bit something to eat before. And we were talking about police officers, and boy, it'd be really tough if you wanted a career in law enforcement with everything that you have to deal with. How long have you been retired?
It's funny you say that because if I hadn't thought about it, I would have to think like 1, 2 years, 5 years.
Already?
Going up to 5 years. It's been nice. It's reinventing myself into retirement. It's become really neat with the book and the radio shows and everything that goes with that, the book tours and so forth, the lectures. I just lectured at the Jewish community here in Phoenix, a retirement community called Enclave at Anthem, which they're just so wonderful.
Nice.
So a lot of book tours, a lot of lectures. It's been fun. It's been really neat. What's fun is, and what is so rewarding, is talking to people and having them ask these questions. Like, with everything going on, all the negativity, 99% of people I talk to, and it's just random, people at the retirement community, people at the Jewish Community Center, are pro-police. They're pro-community, which means pro-police. Police is all about community. But unfortunately, there's a lot of misleading or disingenuous information out there that intentionally tries to distort that. So that's the purpose of the book, is to humanize police. There's a lot of deprecating humor in the book. There's a lot of dumb, daring dilemmas, a lot of stupid suspect stories, but
Dumb,
also
daring dilemmas.
dumb, daring dilemmas, no doubt about it. Finding yourself, locking yourself out of your police car in the middle of a horrible accident. All I can think about is how I'm going to get back in my car, chasing a mad cow down the downtown streets, being trapped in a hippo costume for some type of nonprofit fundraiser that catches on fire. So
Wow.
a lot of funny stories.
You should turn this into a sitcom. That sounds like you could do a whole.
I can't go
TV
too
show
much
about
deep into that, but that could be a possibility. That's
Yeah.
all we'll say.
And then, are you working on a volume 2?
Yes, the second book, which is Twisted But True, Filling in the Cracks, is completed.
My
finished.
imagination's already going on that one.
I know, because there is a sheep there, so where are the cracks? Right, I know. I'm going to have cracks all over the pavement. So,
yeah. Okay, that's
and
good.
it'll be a companion book, basically. It covers the same period of time, my 30 years, but the stories that I didn't want to put in this one, because the book was developed based on a radio show I used to do here in the Valley by KDKB. It's a rock and roll morning show. And every Tuesday morning I would tell supposedly these stupid suspect stories from the internet. But I didn't trust the internet, so I would tell my own stupid
Real
suspect
ones.
stories. Yeah, exactly. Twisted but true. And there's always like a twist at the end of these stories, as well as the chapters in the book. There's always a twist. And it became so popular, and I did it for like 3 years, so there's like 200 stories I told. And so there's enough for a few volumes.
You'll never run out of material, Darren.
After 30 years, you would think I would, but no. No,
Wow.
not at all.
Okay, and then we'll say this again at the end of the show. But if someone wants to find you, what's your website, Facebook, all that?
Absolutely. You can find the book anywhere. Amazon, Twisted But True, Barnes & Noble, any bookstore will have it. You can also go to twistedbuttrue.com. There is a special link for Amazon. It's called Amazon Smile, so that a percentage of the proceeds that Amazon receives goes to the nonprofit, because 100% of my proceeds go to the Crime Stoppers program, Silent Witness. Now, that's 100% of my proceeds. That's not the bookstores keep their, the publisher keeps their cut, but my proceeds go to Silent Witness. And Amazon, under that special link at twistedbuttrue.com, also goes to Silent Witness.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. So we encourage you to do that. And you know what? What's coming up? Christmas is coming up. This would be a great gift for anybody.
It really is.
It really,
It really is.
So
Yeah.
think about it. Think about it. Okay, we got stuff to talk about, man, that I want to ask you about. George, before I ask my question, is there something burning in your head? Because what I want to ask you about,
Yes.
this story went national, but my city councilman is Carlos Garcia. I live in the South Mountain area, and we talked a little bit about this last show. He was stopped, and if I get any of the story wrong, please let me know. He was downtown area, and we have the ASU campus is downtown as well. So the ASU police were running plates, I guess what you call it, and he had suspended plates. He was driving his dad's car. The insurance was expired, so the plates weren't good anymore as well. When they stopped him, he videotaped it, and I don't think he handled it very well, because first thing out of his mouth was like, I don't think you guys have jurisdiction here. Well, I may need to get you out of here. And he was trying to kind of pull rank. Do you know who I am? One of these things. And he is not. He is known already. He's got the reputation. He is not friendly to police. I believe the first day that he took office, he's a new councilman. He had a shirt on that was not friendly to our police officers, and so he didn't make any friends there. I just, and he's my councilman, and it's embarrassing to me, first of all, and our community, for however you want to call it. We need good police officers. I've had very good experiences with the police there. That kind of sounds funny, but our house actually got broken into one time, and we had to call the police, and they were very good. They were very nice to us. Anyway, so I wanted to ask you about that, if you had been studying that, what your thoughts were on it. I don't know what the continuation of that story is.
I respect the voters, and the voters elected him in office. So I respect the process. I respect his position as a city councilman.
Yes,
He's a
sir.
city councilman. He's not of my district, because I would not have voted for him. He has a somewhat of I don't want to say negative police. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, but the shirt he was wearing at his very first city council meeting was "Stop Police Brutality." And I think that goes with a connotation that there's police brutality rampant, and there isn't. And to have that type of shirt is making a statement, I believe. I think he was trying to make a statement with that. And maybe that's the statement that got him elected. I don't know.
That was at the council meeting. He wore it to the council meeting.
So that's telling. So I don't appreciate it. Having served 30 years as a police officer, having been shot at 3 times, having been stabbed. I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'9", if I kind of go like this. And I found that I got into so many fights because bad guys, when they get caught, they either want to go into fight or flight syndrome. They either want to fight or run. And they look at me and think, oh, he's a gazelle. He can chase me and he'll win. So I got in a lot of fights. So I got beat up a lot. I shouldn't say beat up because I won them all. They all went to jail. But it was a rough, long 30 years. And to have a city councilman show up for his first meeting wearing I consider a anti-police shirt, because we all hate police brutality.
Absolutely.
Wherever it occurs. But to have a shirt like that kind of gives this connotation that it's rampant, and it's not. It's specific, it's isolated, and you deal with it in a specific, isolated manner. Wherever you see it, you address it.
Absolutely.
The problem I have right now is there's such negativity towards police when a city councilman wears a shirt like that, when our celebrities, our sports people, when they come on some rant, and all this negativity creates, I think, an atmosphere where a lot of young men and women may say, I don't think this job's for me. And now we're not getting those good recruits like we need. And then when there's a person that shouldn't be a police officer, is a police officer, and they make a mistake, we've seen it. We saw it in Dallas.
Yeah.
The young lady in Dallas clearly should not have. That was not just horrific, so tragic on so many levels. And she should never have squeezed that trigger. In every police training, there's just no excuse for squeezing that trigger. Even if you think you're in your apartment, you're shooting an unarmed person, and there's just no excuse for it. And we've seen other examples. There was one where a young kid shot across his partner inside his car at a woman who called the police about a rape in the alley. Do you remember that in Washington State? And again, these are situations where these people probably weren't suited to be a police officer. So is it a vicious cycle where these individuals, sometimes very disingenuously, say negative things about police just for their own position, their own agendas, create a negative atmosphere in the community? And now you don't get the good quality candidates that we need, and now you have officers make mistakes, and then these folks then grab those isolated, completely atypical situations and exploit it for their benefit, thus creating this vicious cycle. My point being, we have about 1 million police officers, approximately 1 million police officers in the country.
Okay.
In one night, I could work 20 different calls. So potentially you're talking about 20 million calls, if you think about it.
That's true. Yeah.
And how many bad videos do we see? Once in a while. So it's just a drop in the ocean, but it's just like Columbine. When Columbine occurred, the shooting Columbine, and then all of a sudden we saw all these school shootings in the news, remember?
Right.
And we all thought, oh my God, school shootings are going rampant. Is there an increase? That year it actually went down. But perception being reality, the more we see on the news, the more we hear about, the more we think it's something real. And that, I think there's people that are providing this misinformation intentionally. And that's what worries me when a city council member comes in and his first act is to wear something that's negative towards police. Rather than saying, I'm with the police, and any cop that does something wrong is going to be held responsible or accountable. If it's something that's horrendous, like what happened in Dallas, then they're going to be charged
I think
appropriately.
it just was a horrible way to set a tone instead of, like you say, he could have taken that energy, because there's, we don't want corrupt cops. You don't.
No, God, no.
And as an ex-police
Absolutely.
officer, you want to, and face it, this is life. There's going to be some bad ones out there.
Yeah.
But by doing that, he just set such a bad tone. He didn't do anything. It just was aggressive.
What did it say?
And everything. It had.
It said stop police brutality.
Yeah. So and it's just too bad. And then to further do this video, and it actually happened September 10th, and it took a while to get the video out. I guess because it's not immediately available. And you could already see it in the attitude. Instead of you or I, if we stop by the police officer, yes, officer.
What's it called?
What can I do?
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he is absolutely, friendly towards police and appreciates police and their efforts, the men and women that keep our cities safe. But he doesn't have that reputation, I will say that.
And it didn't further the reputation. So what I want to ask you, because you probably know this, the ASU police officer said that he did have jurisdiction. He was right across from, and the ASU campus was right there. And he said he had state by jurisdiction.
That's a fact. And that it's kind of scary when a city councilman is telling a police officer, the law. Because police officers probably know law a little bit better than the city councilman as it relates to their jurisdiction. And a police officer, at least in the state of Arizona, receives their certification to be a police officer throughout the entire state. Now, having said that, our rules and our policy from city to city dictate what we can and can't do.
Okay.
Like we have different paperwork. So if I were to make an arrest when I was a cop, now I'm retired, I'm enjoying it. If I had made an arrest in Glendale, I can do that. If I follow a suspect, it's not like, oh man, he just went right past
So
this.
even though you're a city of Phoenix police officer, you can make an arrest.
Absolutely. If you think about it, how stupid would it be if police had stopped right at the border as a bad guy ran across the street, right?
Yeah,
Right. So we can go into Glendale. We simply call for a Glendale officer to assist with the paperwork and the court jurisdiction.
Okay.
So police officers, that police officer in ASU was 100% right when he said we have jurisdiction in the entire state. And yes, I can pull you over. And yes, I am a sworn officer. But the idea of immediately going against this officer's authority, challenging this officer.
I could have respected the councilman more, because you can't know everything. And makes it. He could have asked the police officer, "Sir, I don't think you have jurisdiction here, do you?" But he didn't even do it that way.
It was challenging.
He was challenging. He was aggressive and assertive. He said he was thinking. To me, it felt like he was saying, "I'm the councilman.
Why
and
did you stop me?"
Do you know who you're stopping?
Yeah. And again, it just goes to the idea that did he have this misconstrued belief of what police were? Did he have something in his background that has this negativity towards police? I don't know. I really don't. I haven't walked in his shoes, so I have no idea if there's something going on. But anytime you believe an entire group of people to be a certain way, that's bias. And bias is bad.
It is. We should invite him to come on the show. It'd be interesting.
I would love
because
that.
You're right. You see, what his experience is.
And I don't know. I really don't. And until you walk in someone's shoes, you don't know why they feel the way they feel. But if you have this bias against an entire group of people, that's bias, and it's wrong. There's so many good police officers. Again, just saying that, it's the bulk, 99. 30 years of police work, I've yet to meet a bad police officer, and I mean
Wow,
that.
that's saying
It
a lot.
is. It is.
That really
And is there bad police officers? There are. It happens. We've seen it happen. We've seen officers fake things. We've seen officers do illegal criminal acts, and thank God we hold them accountable, and they should be held at a higher standard. And I do mean that. That's why when that young lady, that police officer in Dallas, did what she did, on my show, me and my cohort in crime there with the Badge Boys, we both said, no, she needs to go to jail. What she did was criminal. I feel bad. It wasn't intentional. It was a knowing act, but it wasn't intentional in the sense that she wanted to kill someone. She truly thought she was in her own apartment. The problem is what she did. You can't squeeze that trigger when you don't know why you're squeezing the trigger.
Did she panic?
Yeah, she absolutely panicked in the sense that she thought she was in her apartment and there was a strange man in her apartment. But even if that was the case, you would back up, you'd back out, you would try to de-escalate the situation, call backups. That's why you have a radio. She was in uniform. She had a radio.
She could have done all
She
that.
could.
and
She
didn't.
could have acted as a
But he
police
didn't
officer.
lunge at her.
Exactly, he didn't. And that's an interesting point, because had he have done that, he would have been in his rights. If you think about it,
Yeah.
it's his
I think he would've
apartment.
been- yeah,
Yet,
it's true.
if he had done that, then a jury may have felt differently about her actions. If you know what I'm saying?
true.
So it would have been such a tragic Greek tragedy, because he would have been absolutely in his rights to react in that way. But it appears he realized she was a police officer and was like, what are you doing here? And was upset because he just got out of bed when she squeezed the trigger, and she should not have squeezed that trigger.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
it's
very
very
tough.
sad, very tragic. But again, not everyone is suited to be a police officer, and we need our leaders, these celebrities, these sports stars, these politicians. We need them to support police so that we have a good atmosphere for police, and more people will want to be a police officer and raise the standards so that all officers everywhere are of the highest caliber.
Well, I want to ask you, so I just want to say one more thing about this before we leave this topic. The other thing that I really wish that our councilman would have done is he should have thanked the police officers. Oh, I have expired plates. I have suspended plates, rather. Thank you. I didn't know that. I'm driving my dad's car, because I'll give him the benefit of a
I
doubt
will
that
too.
he did not know.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
he couldn't even do that. And I'll leave it at that, okay? We'll leave it at that.
See the video for yourself.
Yeah, watch the video.
Judge it for yourself.
There's plenty of stuff on there, and I think I'm gonna make a call and invite him, and maybe he'll come
I hope
on the
you
show.
do.
If you're
I hope he
wrong,
does.
you're wrong. I mean, if there's a violation, the police officers have the right to, stop you, question you, and if need be, give you a fix-it ticket. But if you lose it and you try to pull that Trump card, no offense to
Pun intended.
Trump,
Pun intended. No.
yeah, you try to pull that card because you're a councilman, that's not right. I mean, you're wrong because the law says they can pull you over because you're a danger to not only yourself, but you're a danger to the other
I
drivers.
didn't get that. Could you try again?
We'll try one more time. Can you
Oh,
say it
you
again?
could But you know what? I have one more question too, because my husband thought about this. So when they had stopped him, because he had suspended plates, should they have stopped him and not let him drive off, or would he
No,
still
it's
be
just
able
a
to drive
fix-it
off?
ticket.
It's
Because he had suspended plates.
right. They are suspended. He's not allowed to drive. I will tell you, back in the day
What
when
would
I was
you have done,
as a
Darren?
patrol officer, if I would explain to an individual, you are not authorized to drive this vehicle. Another police officer could pull you over and give you the same exact ticket. If I always gave warnings, I won't lie. I wasn't a traffic guy. I was more about criminal investigations. I wasn't a traffic guy, so I always gave breaks. I just did. But he could immediately drive off and get another citation. So it's one of those things where you just kind of say, you need to get this taken care of. Do you have another vehicle? It's education. It's an educational
But you
stop.
would not have. You would have let him drive.
I
home?
would have.
Yeah.
I won't lie. I would have.
Could you have sung as an
You
officer?
could say,
Nope,
yep, you
drive.
can't. This vehicle
They
is
could
not.
have even done that, and they didn't.
Absolutely.
I don't think they did.
You could say this vehicle is not authorized for the roadway. I'm going to sit here and I'm giving you a lawful order not to drive that vehicle. Yeah,
somebody
he could have done that, but
told it or whatever.
police aren't that way anymore. That was
I
so
thought they
yes.
could take the license plate off.
They can, but then again, it's all about the spirit of the law, and integrity.
That would
and,
really have been interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, we're not here to mess with people. We're here to make sure there's not things going on like a suspended license that's fraudulent, that's, fictitious. Those are things that rise to the level of pulling the license plate. Sometimes making an arrest even if it's fictitious plates and so forth. But yeah, and again, I'm probably the last person to weigh in on a traffic cop stuff because I was all about crime.
I would have wanted him to stop me if I was the other thing I want to talk about too is what's been in our news as well is our police chief, Jerry Williams.
Mm-hmm.
She did fire some officers.
Yes.
And now there's been an outcry from another one, a friend of the show, our city councilman, Sal DeCiccio, who is a big proponent of police officers. And so I wanted to see how you felt about that. We've talked about that case as well. These are the police officers that got in trouble.
To kind of explain the situation, what happens, it went national. It was a national incident, or I should say it was an incident that received national attention, really, better said. And what occurred was there was a shoplifting at a dollar store. When there was police officers already at the dollar store, when they tried to stop the shoplifter, which by the way was a little girl with a doll, the father drove off and took the mother, the child, and someone else, and drove off and refused to obey commands. So in essence, failure to obey a lawful order. And then also leaving the scene of a crime and also the shoplifting. So there's a lot of things that went into this. And I shouldn't say a chase, but they were pursuing this individual. He finally stopped. The officers were unfortunately overly excited to the point of using a lot of profanity. And even though officially I can tell you there's no excuse for profanity, you will always be in the wrong when you use profanity as a police officer. There's times where it has absolutely saved my life. And I'll share that with you if you like. It's in my second book. I share a story where I used profanity and he finally dropped the weapon. But officially, I'm telling you, there's no excuse. You always realize I'm going to, get jammed up and get some type of, written reprimand or something.
I could certainly understand being in a heated incident and that happens.
Right. And,
anyone.
So is it right? No. And they use a lot of profanity to this couple with a child because they left the scene of this shoplifting and they had their guns drawn. And when I was watching the video, I had concerns with it. Watching it, I had concerns with it because it was a horrible video. It sounded bad. It looked bad. It had all the earmarkings for a bad situation. And I kept telling myself, well, maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's a felony flight involved. Maybe there's a felony crime involved where they had genuine concerns for their safety. And if that was the case, where they had genuine concern for safety, then pointing out the gun is right. Because just because they have a child doesn't mean they don't have guns.
True.
So even though I would never pull my gun on someone with a child unless I had to, like they had a gun or I believe they had a gun for some reason. So look into video. When the dust finally settled, everyone was screaming for the officers to be fired, which was premature because you don't know what's going on. The video doesn't tell the whole story and never ever does.
When you saw the video first on TV, you didn't know the history of how they got to that point.
Exactly. It just looked bad. And when you hear about the rest of the story, it was bad. So our chief with the city of Phoenix did fire the main officer that was there that had his gun out and was screaming the profanities. And she has every right to do so. She's the police chief. She has every right to take that. I don't want to call it extreme, but I'll call it the ultimate.
Okay.
The ultimate discipline is termination, and she chose to do that in this case. There may be other factors to play. For example, what I don't know is history of this police officer. Was there, and I'm not saying there is or isn't, but if there is other discipline in a, like where he shows heated moments, or he shows bad judgment, or he's overly aggressive, those sort of things would be absolutely something you would think about in deciding whether or not we need to terminate this officer. So I can't weigh in on whether I think he should or shouldn't have been fired because I don't know his background. If he doesn't have any other discipline, none, has no history of being aggressive, or using profanity or being unprofessional. If this was an isolated case where he overreacted, which I think he did, by opinion, using the profanity, I don't think is needed, quite frankly, nor is it allowed. But I also don't think it was needed, quite frankly. I really don't. And he didn't de-escalate. It didn't look like he, at some point, as a police officer, we all get in a situation where we pull over a vehicle with like a suspended license. Sometimes we'll pull over a vehicle with a stolen license. And then we don't know it, but what happened is the thief of the stolen vehicle takes that license plate, puts it on a light type vehicle, so we can continue driving with now a stolen license plate on the stolen vehicle. And now the legitimate driver of a light type vehicle has a stolen license plate on his car. So I've been in those situations where you pull over this fine, nice family. We have our guns out because we think it's a stolen vehicle.
Never thought about that.
Until you look at the VIN, you look at what's going on, you realize fairly quickly, what's going on, and you really, truly apologize to this family for putting them through something so horrific. But it does happen. The nature of our job isn't perfect because the criminal world is so vast in terms of the various scenarios that can play out that unfortunately sometimes good people will find themselves in a difficult situation. And so we apologize. You de-escalate. Once you realize what you have based on the investigation, then you can de-escalate and say, to the point where you literally apologize to this poor family and you let them know you were driving around with this stolen license plate and that's why we pulled you over. And most times, I can't even think of a time where they weren't understanding of the situation.
Sure, once they got to know the facts.
Yeah.
Now, on this particular case, the newly formed Citizens Review Board, I got this right, they recommended suspension, but the chief did decide to fire them.
That was my understanding too. And again, I don't know how the review board worked in terms of how much information they had as far as past discipline, if any. And I don't know if there was any.
And they're
really
a new
don't.
board, too.
Exactly. So they also look at prior history in terms of what, I'll be honest, that's what I thought was going to happen with this officer. I thought he would be, probably the max as far as suspension in terms of what happened. And so I was surprised by the termination. But the chief absolutely has that right, that responsibility, and that
It's her authority, I guess.
it is. And I would think that will weigh on a chief, because they have to make that. You're messing with the police, and we're all police officers. We run to another police officer who needs assistance or is being shot or being hurt. And so the idea that you're terminating a police officer, that's the ultimate, decision. And so I believe that probably weighed heavily on her. But I would think, knowing what little I know about her, she seems like a wonderful police chief. She really does.
I think she really does try to do
She's
a good job.
Yeah, and it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time. So I'm giving her the benefit about personally that there's something that weighed heavier on her mind in terms of this person shouldn't be a police officer. And guess what? There's individuals out there that are police officers that go through the cracks. They're absolutely, the rare. They're atypical. They're not they're the exception to the rule. That sometimes can be heavy-handed, and unfortunately, situations like this can show that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what do you think about that review board anyway? Because that's kind of a new deal, and it's really there's citizens, and are there police officers on there as well?
Yeah, there is. There's a number of police officers. Most of them I know and respect. I don't have a problem with a review board that includes police and civilians that provide the police chief their opinion. I like that, and that is very similar to what standard police departments have. What I have a problem with is where a civilian oversight over the police chief, that they get to decide the discipline. And the reason I say that is because we do have civilian oversight over the police chief. It's called city council. So why would we have, on both ends? It makes no sense, and I've seen a lot of bad things come from civilian complete review boards that have complete power over the chief in terms of discipline. You lose you lose a little bit of your authority as a police chief in terms of the respect of the rank and file when you're not the police chief, really.
So ultimately, the way it's set up now, she can take their comments and their guidance, recommendation, but it still is her decision.
Perfect example was this case, yeah, because like you said, the review board came back with suspension, and she felt for whatever reasons, and I don't know if she even articulated or not, but she felt it was more serious than that, or there was prior discipline involved.
Well, I appreciate you talking those through with us, and I want to get some time to get to your book. Why should people read this book?
This book is extremely funny. It's dark. It humanizes police officers. You know how it takes a village to raise a child? It took multiple villages and a team of elders to help me write this book. Because I always joke, I'm an author, but I'm not much of a writer. What was nice is this book took me 4 years because I wrote it like a cop, and then I would give it to friends and so forth, and I'd say, yeah, it's pretty good, and hand it back. It's like, okay, that's code for it's not very good. So I kind of did a lot of evaluation, and I realized I was writing like a cop. So I reached out to some reporter friends of mine, because my last job I had on the department was with Silent Witness. I was a Crime Stopper sergeant, so I spoke in the media, so I had a lot of reporter friends and colleagues, I should call them. And let them read it, and they like love it. Here's what you might want to think about doing. So it took 4 years of a collaborative effort. They're very funny stories. It's a fast read. Every chapter is a story. So there's 30 chapters, 30 individual stories. There is a theme: lives lost, lives saved. That's the ultimate theme. Stories that start with, I kind of was talking about a few where I get a call of a wild cow downtown. And the dispatcher says, I think it's a joke. She said, I think it's a joke because the person was laughing when they called it in. Well, if you saw a cow running around downtown, you'd probably laugh too if you called it in. And that's what happened. It was a real deal. It was a real cow. Foaming in the mouth, just acting crazy. Young police officer, patrol officer. I'm able to get it corralled into the, back in the day, like in the 80s, 27th Avenue, instead of being a huge road, it had the dry gullies on either side for irrigation and so forth.
Rural type.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to get it down into that dry canal.
Oh, pretty good.
Pretty good, right? Until DPS showed up. And TPS had their lights and sirens blaring. The cow jumps out of the dry canal, bumps me. I go flying, jumps on my car, damages the hood of the car.
Make that up.
I know, right? It gets worse. So now it's running, and I forgot my car. I just go running after this cow. So as I'm running after the cow, it's headed towards, this was 27th Avenue, it's heading eastward towards the freeway.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm thinking, if this cow gets on a freeway, people are going to die. Yeah. So now it becomes really serious. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to dispatch this while I'm running after all these things. And there's a lot more to the story, but at the end, as I'm running after the cow, I get this thumping on the back of my head. And I'm so focused on this cow, I don't realize something's hitting me in the back of the head. I finally stop, turn around, and it's true. It was a cowboy, full chaps, cowboy hat, boots, the whole bit, with a lasso. And he was lassoing and hitting me in the back of the head. This guy was like an expert with lasso. I finally moved out of the way because he yelled, get away.
Yeah, he's trying to get the cow, right?
And he did. He lassoed the cow. He took the cow down. True story. He was on his way to a rodeo in Tucson. He had a big old truck full of different cows and so forth, and it jackknifed on the freeway. And a couple of cows got it loose. He got them all back, but that one. And I happened to
So it was his cow.
It was his cow. He knew. He was looking for it this whole time. So it's those kind of stories but it's a very fast read. Like that chapter is like 4 pages. So you can read it, put it down, read it, put it down. But most of the reviews on Amazon have been, at this point, it's like 80 reviews, all 5 stars. And most people say you can't put it down. You just want to read one more after the next one.
You know what I think you should do? Maybe you've thought of this already, but all the police officers out there, they should call in their stories to you, and then just you collect them.
I was thinking
and
about
attribute them to Officer Brown or whoever calls it in.
Every cop has that first day solo.
Oh yeah.
And just a book about every officer's first day solo would be interesting. But absolutely, I've thought about that. Absolutely,
because there's so many stories out there that don't get told.
I already have 300 more of my own. So,
oh wow! So you're not done.
Oh no! And like I said, it won an award, a 2019 Pinnacle Award for Best True Crime Book.
Wow!
2019.
Is that right?
Yeah. Nothing but 5-star reviews. It's well received in spite of myself. So it's a very good book. I always give the thing: if it doesn't make you laugh out loud or hold back a tear, I'll buy it back.
That's
Is this
fantastic.
just distributed here in the United States, or is it?
It's everywhere. I have people going to Denmark that shows pictures of it in Denmark, Australia, Hong Kong. Yeah, it's all over the world. Yeah.
Have you put it on audio?
It is. It's also on Audible. So if you go to Amazon, you can also listen to Audible. Now,
Do you do it yourself?
I do.
You read it?
So
Oh, cool.
I can't strongly encourage Audible because it's just me
No, I
reading
bet
it.
it's good because you're telling
But
the story.
yeah, but who knows? Who knows? I don't know. But it is me doing the Audible. It is available on Audible. So if you already have Audible and it's a free book, go for it. But yeah, the written form is absolutely, truly laugh out loud funny, and it has something for everyone. There's, like I said, that story of the mad cow is kind of like that funny madcap adventure, if you will. Then there is me in a shootout where I put the reader in my shoes as I'm in this shootout with a bank robber who shows up at the bank wearing a three-piece suit, riding a pink bicycle.
What?
He gets to the bank. He goes in with two guns.
Selling Mary Kay? No.
Right? He comes in with his two guns and a grenade.
Oh.
Slams a grenade on the counter with the clerk, demands all the money, and you know what he does when he's ready to leave? He pulls the pin and throws the grenade. It was just so cruel what he did to those folks in that bank. And so then he comes out. I arrive about that time where he's in somewhere. We don't know where he's at. And a homeless person is seen or someone who looks transient, is riding away in a pink bicycle. Well, it was a ruse. He had provided that bike to the homeless person. He rides away. All the cops start following that person on the bicycle. I was concerned that might have been a ruse. So I kind of leapfrog, tried to get to the other side of the bank just in case it was a ruse. And we spot each other. And it was one of those looks where he looks at me. He has a big old duffel bag. He's changed his clothes. And that look of kind of like the deer in the headlights kind of thing, except that look of, uh-oh. At that, and the fact that he had a gun in his hand told me he was a bad guy. So we get in a shootout, and luckily I survived. Sadly, he
So
did
you're
not.
all by yourself? You
I'm
didn't have
all
a
by
partner?
myself, and so I put you, the reader, in my shoes during this shootout to show you that as everything unfolded, there's other things that occurred that I didn't even know about, and it's a good example of the twist at the end because there's another 4 pages of things that occurred that I wasn't even aware of. A lot of really kind of interesting things. It's it's tragic because someone died, but it's compelling and riveting. So you have the funny with the mad cow type stories, me stuck in a hippo suit that's caught on fire, also me locking myself out of my patrol car, all sorts of those dumb daring dilemmas, but then also those riveting, compelling stories, the shootouts, catching a criminal. I have one chapter. There's chapters that have a lot to do with sex crimes because I was a sex crimes detective for about a decade. Wow. So during that time frame, I have chapters like, "Excuse me, officer, I left my wallet at the crime scene," where a suspect literally did leave his wallet in the victim's bed. All sorts of kind of different encounters. It gets, and then the very end is when I was working homicide, night detectives in a homicide, where there's a lot of morbid stories, bodies.
You did it all, Darren. You really did the gamut.
30 years. I had
Police
30
work.
years to do it, so yeah.
What was your favorite type of police
Sex
work?
crimes. And
Sex
the
crimes.
reason I love sex crimes is that I was able to truly help the victims. In homicide, you can help the families, but there's no closure. There's no I hate the word, give them closure. No, you're not giving anybody who lost their child closure. What you can do is give them justice, and you give them hopefully some peace with that justice. But in sex crimes, I felt with the rape victims, I could truly help them move on with their lives. I had one story, I won't go too detailed with it because it's not in the book, and we're still friends today. She was working kind of like a seedy area, industrial area, at where you dance for money in a private little room. You undress. That's the gig. So that's what she did. And she was young, trying to make money, and a homicidal monster came in there, and he could have done anything he wanted because for the money. And instead, he
was the client.
He beat her to practically to death. When I came in, I thought I had a homicide scene. There was blood everywhere. It took her. They had induced a coma and to keep her alive and all that. But she did survive, and we were able to find the suspect. He was wanted for murder in another state. We were able to make a case against him, and she has since moved on with her life. She has found religion. She has a family. She's completely changed her life, and we still communicate to this
what a
very
great
day.
story.
So yeah, hopefully the book helps humanize police officers, that we truly care about the community and we care about every single victim out there.
It's a happy ending.
And even though this book is humorous and funny and dark, I will tell you it starts off with a tragedy, ends with a tragedy, but hopefully ultimately it's uplifting.
That's awesome. Well, I also know that we do have a shortage of police officers here in our city. We're the
Yes, we for
fifth
quite a
largest
while.
city, right? And I want you to go out there and encourage, somebody who's thinking about it, because I can't imagine.
We need good candidates,
We need some really good
good
police
people,
officers.
men and women. Yeah, regardless of age, regardless of age.
What would you say to
Second-
someone who's thinking about it?
If you are the type that can keep your cool in heated situations, if you're the type of person that loves helping people, truly, genuinely, it's in your nature. It's just who you are. It's in your DNA. This is a job for you because it's rewarding. You get adventure every single night. Because at first you're going to be working nights. But it's
When everything happens.
yeah, it's adventure. You get to truly help people. You make a difference in so many people's lives that you don't even know about. The ones you do know about are obvious, but every single encounter is ultimately or could be life-changing and life-affirming for somebody out there. So it's truly the most rewarding profession you can do. I've saved lives. I've arrested bad guys. I've put people away that would kill if they weren't otherwise in prison. And the next book kind of goes more into some of those heavy stories. This one's mostly funny, but yeah, if you're the type of person that just loves helping people and you can keep your calm in heated situations, you don't have a temper, this is a good job for you. It really is, regardless of your age. You could be in that situation where you're thinking about changing your career and you're, in your late 30s, 40s, and you want to think, this is a good job for you. It really is.
I never even thought about that because I always think it has to be
Young
somebody
kid,
young,
right? Someone coming out of
20s,
college, right?
know.
Like Super Sarah.
Yeah, like
but
Super
yeah,
Sarah.
yeah. But no, this is a good job for anyone that can keep their head about them when all else seems like it's going crazy, because you will find yourself in crazy situations.
Call into his show and ask him a question, or
Oh,
find him
love
on
to.
Facebook too.
Absolutely,
Because it's such a
absolutely.
wealth of information, and he's still involved.
And if I don't know, we'll find it out for you.
Yeah,
I know who to call.
we're down to our last few minutes.
Oh my
George, I
gosh.
feel like I've hogged this interview.
No, it's okay. I've learned a lot. You get put in situations where you have to help somebody, and it's that feeling you have.
So
for doing
rewarding.
good,
So
doing
rewarding.
good
It
to,
is.
Other people.
Sarah, you're the young person here. If you have a question, is there anything you'd like to ask Darren?
Do you have to get like my roommate's she's like majoring in like criminal justice and stuff, but do you have to like go to school to become?
No, most police departments require like a high school diploma. It used to be very competitive. When I came on department, it was so competitive that I had college and was a Army veteran, and I had wait a year before I got hired because it was so competitive. Sadly, and I do mean that, sadly, it's not as competitive today because there's so much negativity towards the police profession, unfortunately, thanks to a lot of ill-meaning individuals and misguided individuals that put such a negativity towards police work with a broad brush. When you wear a shirt to a police function that says "Stop Police Brutality," it's almost like a broad brush, like you're saying all police are bad, opposed to stop that one police brutality.
And our culture is different too. Our culture, it's a difficult culture out there. That can't help either sometimes, I feel.
We're at a better time today than we were, like, let's say in the 60s, when there was genuine, bad things going on with laws and
That's true.
and social, injustices that were going on. Today we live in a lot better society, but there's still that misguided belief that police are heavy-handed. And again, police really aren't. Police are there to help people. They absolutely are. There's so few, scenarios you can point at to show, the other side of that coin in terms of police brutality. And even situations like the Dallas that we talked about, and that case, I want to say it was Washington, where the guy shot this gal for hitting the hood of the patrol car. those wasn't cases of police brutality as much as they were the wrong person in that job. They got scared and they reacted so incorrectly. And that was just not the right person in the job, quite frankly. That's my belief. That's just my personal and professional belief.
Well, my nephew, Sarah's uncle, was a police officer.
Okay.
Became a detective. He's retired now too, and I'm sure that he was just fantastic with me because, as you
Thank you
say,
for
he
your
had
service, sir.
temperament, and did a great job. And hey, Randy, hey to you, buddy, out there.
Thank you, Randy.
So this has been wonderful. We love having Darren on. We hope you come back again.
Anytime.
So the second book comes when?
Hopefully by the holiday season, the second book. I know, right?
Perfect.
Crossing fingers.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe you
crossing
could even
fingers.
come back in before that
Yeah,
time in December.
Talk about the new book
And do that.
let us know how it's coming.
Yeah.
You had me at high.
There you go. Awesome. So we have Darren Birch, author of Twisted But True. We want to thank you, Chipsters, for joining us. We're here every Thursday night. Now, next Thursday, remember, we will not be here. It's Halloween.
Trick or treat.
I'm Alice Sadowit.
Don Jorge.
Behind the camera is our wonderful Super Sarah intern. Yes, Sarah. Good job. So happy Halloween. Have a wonderful night. Anything else, George?
And be safe. Watch your kids getting candy. Make sure you check the candy that they get. Just be proactive because they're getting candy from strangers, people down the block, neighbors you probably don't even know sometimes, and your kids and you are going in costume, and just check the candy before they eat them. Kids are just going to be chomping on candy all night, so check the candy, check it, make sure that there's nothing looks out of the ordinary, because if it looks bad, it might be bad.
And wear bright clothing and have an adult with you. And be careful of the streets.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right. Is that it, guys? Okay.
You
Well,
officers
thanks.
out there, stay safe.
All right. Walk on, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's always
That was
wonderful
fun.
to have
That
you
was
on.
so much fun.
We always have a good time. Did you see the sign that I got, George?
Yeah, Latinos. I'm going to put it right here.
Oh, we forgot.
Yeah, because this is where the camera shows this empty space. But
Yeah,
they
next
had
time.
already started talking, so they want to.
That's okay.
Oh,
Next
and
time.